J Bair. And today we have a very special exclusive for y'all. This guest today is a teacher, a mentor, a DJ, photographer, trainer. He's a coach. We're talking multiple sports: basketball coach, football coach, softball coach, tennis coach. You know, in this day and age, the word GOAT is thrown around so often. But this person here is truly an icon, a true living legend of our city, crowning jewel, Mr. Destry Mangus. Coach Des.
Yes, sir.
Truly an honor to have you here today, sir.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the accolades.
Absolutely. Well deserved. You know, we believe in giving people their flowers while they can still smell them. And you definitely are appreciated throughout our community.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, if we can, I'd like to start from somewhat of the beginning and just, you know, everybody knows you as Coach Des. You know, I mean, generations at this point of boys and girls, which are now men and women, know you as Coach Des, but many may not know your backstory.
Right.
So, if you can you just let us know, you know, about your upbringing? Where were you born and raised, for those that don't know?
Okay, I was born and raised in Stilton. Although I was, you know, born in Harrisburg Hospital, you know, I was brought up in Stilton all the way until I was about 7 or 8 years old. And my mother brought me and my brothers and sisters to Harrisburg when I was about, I say 7 or 8 because I started, you know, when I got to Harrisburg, I started first grade. So I say 7 or 8 years old. I didn't go to school in Stilton because I never had nobody to bring me to school. So, and plus there was certain tests you had to take to get into Stilton. And I remember one time, I know I took the test like once or twice. I think I might have failed it one time. Next time I didn't, but my mother just didn't have nobody to take me to the school.
Wow. Now, is this on the west side? You lived in?
Yep, I lived on the west side on Christian Street.
Wow.
Along with the Pettigrews and a lot of other people that lived in the west side.
And then you moved to Harrisburg. What part of the city did you move to then?
I lived on the hill. Matter of fact, my mother, she moved all 7 of us to my aunt's house, who's no longer living. This was right on 13th and 14th and Walnut. Right by 14th Street Playground.
Okay.
My aunt had a house with her husband and her 2 kids, and she took us all 8 of us in her house. Yes, yes.
So you had 7 brothers and sisters? Or
I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. And she took us all in because, you know, my dad was cutting up, you know what I mean? And he was doing some domestic violence stuff with my mother. So my mother got tired of it and said, okay, let's go. Packed us up and we left to Harrisburg. So that was the beginning of my story.
Now that's a big family, and that's a lot of people in one house, which wasn't uncommon in those days.
Right.
You know, to have everybody all in one house. My uncles and grandmothers, and you know, they had a similar story of being in my grandmother's house. You know, my aunts and uncles and their kids and everything. So,
right.
What was that like though, with so many people in the house and your siblings? I'm not sure. Where do you fall at as far as your siblings?
Okay, I was the 4th child. Now, I had 3 brothers ahead of me.
3 older brothers.
Yeah.
So all being in one house, what was that like? You know,
man, it was crowded. Well, let me take you back to Stilton. We had, I mean, the house that we lived in on Stilton, we had the train tracks running through the backyard. Okay, anybody that know Christian Street, you know, knows about the train tracks, right? And most of the houses on Christian Street, not all of them, but most of the houses on Christian Street, you didn't have a bathroom. Your bathroom was outside, like an outhouse, like the people down south.
Wow.
Down south, they had outhouses. Like ours was a wooden bathroom in the backyard.
And this is the 60s?
Yeah. This was I was born in '55, so this was in '50s going into the '60s.
Wow.
So, and I hated going into that bathroom because you can see the spider webs on the wood and all that. You were scared a spider might crawl up on you. But anyways, at night, if you had to go to the bathroom, we had this big old bucket where you just had the pee in, and then we just emptied it out in the morning.
Wow.
But anyways, me and my brothers, we never had a single bed. Me and the brother that's under me, Andre, we slept together. My other brother slept together.
Everybody
2 sisters slept together. You know what I mean? So,
man, so it wasn't no sense of privacy. That word didn't even exist.
Now we moved over to my aunt's. There was a little bit more room because they had a 3rd floor, but still, I remember I never had a bed to myself. I always had to sleep with my brother that was next to me, 1 year under me.
Right. So everybody had a bunkmate, huh?
But what got me about that situation, at the time, we didn't realize the strain it put on my aunt and my uncle, you know what I mean? Right. But they survived it, you know what I mean, until my mom went and got her own place, her own house. And that was down in World Terrace. So we moved there for a little while before we moved on 16th Street and then Horner Street.
So you stayed pretty much in
that same area.
Same
area, right.
Yeah. Man, so, I mean, you talk about what your aunt and uncle went through, and I think about the sacrifices that you make when you care for people and you want to help them.
Right.
And, I think we need more of that,
Oh, definitely, man. I mean, when my aunt passed away, when my uncle passed away, he passed away first. That's what I just started thinking about that. You know what I mean? I said, dang, this guy, you know what I mean? He's not even really my blood relative. He's married to my aunt. And here he took us all in. So you can imagine the arguments they probably had before they took us in.
Right.
It was 7 of us and my mom. That's 8.
And
his 2 kids.
And his 2 kids. I think about sometimes we don't realize the impact that people have on our lives.
Yeah.
I think the sacrifice that your uncle made for you and your siblings and your mom, it's amazing because a lot of people will look at you in that same regard. Making sacrifices for other people that aren't your blood. He took you in and your siblings and your mom. Like you said, technically, he's not blood.
Right.
He's not your blood relative.
Right.
That took a lot, as a man to do that.
I know.
And it's kind of funny, the things we pick up. That may be one of the things that you picked up, and back.
I did, man. I did. I mean, he was like, to me, he was like one of my heroes. I mean, I can remember him talking to me. I mean, he had to talk to all 7 of us, but I just remember the times that he used to talk to me. Sometimes he would give me a nickel or a dime. I say, "Oh, can I have a dime to go to the store?" You know what I mean? It wasn't a quarter. A quarter was a lot back then. So I used to ask for a nickel, a dime, so we go get a popsicle or something.
Now, I think about the era that you're in, you're coming up in, like you said, it's early 60s, probably at this point, mid 60s.
Yeah.
And, everybody knows you can go to the basketball games, Coach Dad's got the music going. You go to the workouts, Coach Dad's got the music going. And what were you listening to back then? Like, what was it back then?
Back then, man.
What were we listening to?
Yes, we're talking about, and it was James Brown, and there was some artists before that, and my mom and them, they used to always dance and stuff. We used to always be dancing, man. But we used to listen to a lot of James Brown.
A lot of James Brown.
A lot of James Brown, man.
Now, when you were growing up at that time, because everybody knows you again, it's Coach Dez.
Right.
Back then, what did you see yourself doing? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you envision yourself doing? What did you envision for your life?
Well, it was hard. I mean, we was living in in poverty. My dad used to be in the service, so he used to bring all that service food, that surplus food and stuff. So back in the day, it was hard to envision being anybody. I didn't really have anybody to look up to, like, like people do now, like they can look up to LeBron James or somebody like Obama, Michelle Obama. I mean, I didn't have too many people to look up to until, when I got up to high school. I got to take that back. When I was getting ready to go to middle school, when Jimmy Jones, when he used to, Jimmy Jones, man, he was and I used to live by him when I moved to World Terrace.
Right.
I used to, because his whole family lived down there.
And I wanted to get to Jimmy Jones, but for those that don't know, maybe younger, can you explain who he was? I mean, he's the first black quarterback, right, I believe, at USC.
Yes.
Sports Illustrated, come out of Harrisburg High.
John Harris.
Yeah, King John Harris, yes.
Right. It was John Harris High School before,
So, for those that don't know how, like, can you put it in today's terms, like how big he was to the city? Like, who can you compare him to, like, now? So someone may be able to say, oh, wow, he was that big. Like, somebody now,
right,
in this era that...
Like Jimmy Jones, he was huge. I mean, even the way he probably even realized it at the time that he was that huge.
Right.
When he was going, to John Harris, because all the other guys he played with, some of them guys were good too.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Some of them probably thought, oh, I'm just as good as Jimmy Jones, right? But he probably didn't even realize how big he was. You know what I mean? Because John Harris was, that was good. They were that good. I mean, I don't think Jimmy Jones lost a game for the 3 years that he started for John Harris, and that's how good their teams were. And but Jimmy, though, I mean, when he was getting recruited, and matter of fact, when he threw for 35 touchdowns in the season, I mean, nobody even threw that many touchdown passes back then in the 60s.
That's a lot.
So he was getting national attention for that. And why I'm saying it like this is because when I played football my senior year, when we was having a good season, our team was having a good season, right? We wind up 10-1 in the game we lost to a CD East. But that was the only year that I even started playing football. I mean, I started football.
Right.
I mean, all other years I was like on the bench, but I finally broke through my senior year. And the thing is, I was getting accolades, right? You know what I mean? I led the whole area in interceptions, and I was on the Big 33 watch. But I didn't realize people were like looking up to me at that time. Like little kids was asking for my chin strap, my mouthpiece. I said, why are they doing that? So I can imagine Jimmy Jones.
Wow. Right.
You know what I mean? And during his time, you know what I mean? And here he's an All-American, and probably after his 11th grade year. So now you gotta act a certain way, be a certain way, and so I can imagine everybody's looking at you,
right,
and you can't do nothing dumb in the streets or anything.
And you're still a kid. Basically.
And you're still a kid.
Yeah,
you're still a kid.
We're not talking about a professional at this point. We're talking about a teenager.
Right.
A lot of pressure that comes with it. Now, when did you first get into sports, period? Because you're involved in so many sports. When did that start for you, your love for sports and getting into sports?
Well, when I got here to Harrisburg, they used to the only place you could go to was like for free or anything was the Boys and Girls Club, the one on Berry Hill Street, right? So we used to go there, and the first sport I got into was baseball.
Really?
Yeah. I played baseball first. Everybody was playing baseball. Basketball was like the third on the list. Like, Harrisburg really wasn't known for basketball. But everybody played football. They were known for football because of
number
John Harris and William Penn. Everybody played football, but the only thing we could get into at a young age and for free was baseball.
Wow.
At the Boys and Girls Club, even if you didn't make midget league, they would have these other leagues, prep league and cadet league.
So you're guaranteed to be involved.
Be involved, right?
Somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, they used to have 2 fields over there, and you played. Because I remember when you tried out for Little League, you had to be real good or you got cut. Man, I got cut every year until I was 11.
They were cutting people in Little League.
Yes. I seen this guy hit a home run. Name was Jerry Bullock. He hit a home run over the fence, man. I think he was like 11 or 12. He hit a home run and they cut him during tryouts. Cut him. He did not make it.
Wow.
None of the team. They had about 8 teams.
So that's how competitive baseball was
Yes.
back then. It's funny because nowadays it's almost an afterthought, unfortunately. I mean, we're trying to get it back to that level, but basketball, football, and track have seemed to, really separated itself as the dominant sports, but it was kind of reversed back then, is what you're saying. Like baseball was highly competitive in the city.
Right. It was baseball was it because they would have the league championships in each league, and then they would bring all the leagues together to have, like a regional tournament, man. You know what I mean? And that's how Choo Chambers got a look, you know what I mean? He's like one of the greatest black baseball players that came out of here.
Now, you went elementary school, middle school. What was it like back then? Where did you go in the city?
Well, when I moved here to Harrisburg, I went to Lincoln Elementary,
which is now the administration
building, right?
For newer people in the area.
I went there all the way up to 6th grade. And one of the years I went to Melrose to the fact that they bust some of us to Melrose.
Okay.
There was I don't know, they was just, for some reason they just picked like 50 people to
send them out to
Melrose. You know what I mean? Segregate Melrose a little bit,
right?
Because it was all mostly white.
And that's the thing I think a lot of people may either forget or may not realize if you're of a certain age, if you're younger, what the city was actually like back then as far in terms of the demographic, like the schools and the area. That it wasn't what it looks like today as far as just mostly black and brown. You're talking about 90-something% black and brown. There was a lot more white.
There was a lot more whites back then. I remember when I went to Lincoln, it was like half and half. I mean, all of State Street, like if you look at the buildings on State Street, those houses, they were mostly by all whites. Them were some big houses.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And matter of fact, the majority of the houses now on State Street, they made them into apartments. That's how big they are.
That's so true. And I didn't realize that until my uncle told me that the house that I knew as my grandmother's house was actually a doctor that she had worked for. And he had gifted that house to her.
Wow.
Yeah, he gifted that house to her, I believe after my grandfather passed while he's still living, but she worked for him and he gifted that house for her. And she had that house all the way up until the children of that doctor took it over and wanted to sell it.
Right.
But he had gifted it. But there's this big, huge, we talk about to this day, and she lived directly across from the administration building on State Street. So I didn't think about it until what you just said. That makes sense, though, that there was a lot more white people living all up and down, I guess you say.
State Street. They were the best houses. They were the best houses in that area because they were so big. And you know what I mean? The blacks couldn't afford that mortgage on those brick houses.
Right.
So I didn't mean to get off the subject.
No, absolutely. So the city was it was different as far as the way it looked and the people that were there, demographic. This is pre-white flight. Now, what changed that though? What changed? What are some of the things that you feel like shifted the city? Is there an event that happens? Is there certain things that take place that leads to the shift in the city as far as the demographic?
Yes, Yeah, what hurt me is like when Harrisburg had the riots in the '60s, and this was after Martin Luther King got shot, Malcolm X, the Kennedys. You know what I mean? It was all in that time period because I remember I was in class when John F. Kennedy got shot.
Really?
I was in school, and
they make an announcement.
Yeah, they made an announcement, and we was watching it, and the teacher brung TV in the room, and we was like watching it, like we was in awe. I was like in maybe second grade at the time.
This is what, '63, I believe.
Yeah,
around there, early '60s.
Yeah, 63, 64, and when I came on, man, you all the teachers was like crying, you know what I mean, and us kids we just was looking around like, you know what I mean, we couldn't understand what was going on.
Right.
But then, then here comes, Bobby Kennedy getting shot just because, you know what I mean, they're helping out the black folks, you know what I mean, and here they getting shot down like dogs. But anyways, what happened after that was when a lady in Harrisburg, there was tension already. But when an old lady was going when she was in the pharmacy, I guess she was trying to get in to hurry up and get her, get some medicine. And the white man shut her leg in the door, didn't want to let her in, and shut her leg in the door. And all those folks down there, down on 13th and Market.
Is that where the pharmacy?
Yep, it was right on that. It's right on the corner of Market and 13th Street. That was the pharmacy, and man, they just started fighting and rioting, broad daylight. It started in broad daylight. And that was like the last straw right there in Harrisburg, because, Harrisburg was controlled by whites,
right,
all the white folks. And they just snapped out, man. And Harrisburg had a curfew. They had a curfew. It was like 9 o'clock yeah.
I never knew about that, the Harrisburg riots, things like that. So this is nothing, what we see nowadays is nothing new even to our city.
No, not to our city. I mean, people don't even talk about it. And I'm trying to I'm wondering why, you know what I mean? Some of these people are still living. Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of them people are still living. And, Cause I remember, and I remember I was just in my neighborhood when it all went down, and I just seen people running up and down the street. Matter of fact, on Warner Street, where the Hamilton Health Center is, there used to be a supermarket, and man, that supermarket tried to hurt me, close down, and people were going in there and just looting. Shoot, I know my brothers my mom wouldn't let us be outside, right? With my older brothers and them, they was bringing food home, man.
They got a piece of the action.
Yeah, man. I ain't gonna sit there and lie, but they just like, they were out there. She couldn't stop them, They were, they was
young men at that point.
She couldn't stop them, but she stopped me, my brother, my two sisters.
Man, how long did it last?
It lasted a few weeks, man.
Tension was high.
The tension was high. I mean, cars, if you was in a black neighborhood and you rode down the street, you better have your lights on to show that you're a black face. Wow. If you was a white face, they was bricking your car. Man, it was just high. They let out all the schools. The schools are closed for a couple weeks.
Wow. So this is very similar to what we seen after the Rodney King verdict.
Yeah.
The riots, and when people were coming through Florence and Normandy, and any white person that was coming through there, they would snatch them out of their car, throwing bricks and rocks. It was similar type of vibe and energy back then.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that after that is when you start to see white folks slowly work their way out to, I'm assuming, Susquehanna.
Oh yeah,
the river, Middletown, more and more.
As soon as that happened, man, I say 70% of the white folks left they picked up their stuff and got out. The only ones that stayed were the ones that couldn't afford to leave. We're talking about people like on the south sides and the projects in the south side. Some of them couldn't leave. I mean, they didn't have the money.
Wow.
I mean, there was a lot of poor whites too back then, man. So, because when we went back to school, whites were still there. Some of the whites the poor whites were still there.
Couldn't leave.
They couldn't leave. They couldn't afford to leave. Everybody couldn't afford to leave at one time, like the ones that had a lot of money, the richer white folks.
So the domino effect of that must have been crazy, because you see, kind of like a ripple effect of it, because those whites that left, that could afford to leave, essentially took their money with them.
Yes.
So that impacts the city economically.
I'm glad you said that, because downtown, it's stripped downtown, man. I mean, we had some big stores downtown. Daltrix, Pomeroy's. I mean, there were some big stores. And after that,
slowly started to...
downtown went down.
It took, basically decades to...
Till Mayor Reed,
priority.
Started, making it, like you said, a priority and trying to build the city back up.
Wow.
It went down. I'm telling you, man. Downtown was like a ghost. A ghost town down there.
Now, high school, right? Because you go through, you said middle school, which is...
Edison. It was Edison at the time.
Edison was the school that elementary and middle school?
Yeah, it was... Edison was a junior high. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay.
That's where Edison Village is now.
7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yep, 7th, 8th, 9th. And just like uptown, they had Camp Curtin. That was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Oh. So William Penn was 10th through 12th, and then John Harris was 10th through 12th.
Yep.
Now, you pre-merger or you after the merger by the time you get to high school?
No, I'm during the merger.
During the merger, okay.
What happened was, after my 8th grade year, they sent all the 9th graders up to John Harris. And all the 9th graders at Camp Curtin, they sent them to William Penn.
Oh, so that's when they started. Okay,
so I don't know why they did that move, right? And so the middle school was nothing but 7th and 8th graders, right, for 1 year, because the next year was the merger.
Next year was the merger. Okay.
Yeah, we're like guinea pigs, man. Right. We was experimenting, man.
So we're gonna try this first, and then we'll try that.
Yeah, so the class of 74 were guinea pigs.
Right.
We were guinea pigs, man.
Now this is before they built the big middle school, which were
yeah. Heck yeah.
So now, because of the William Penn, John Harris rivalry, and for those that don't know, John Harris would be on the Allison Hill section of the city, and William Penn in the uptown
right.
Now, from that, in my era, we've seen a lot of heavy rivalry between uptown and the hill.
Greatest rivalry. It was.
I mean, even outside of sports, even in the streets.
It was. The streets. Oh, shoot, man, it was rough. I mean, it was really getting rough. Like uptown and the hill, it was really getting rough at that time. You know what I mean? Because I remember before I got to middle school, my brother Jerry, he did about a year or two in jail before, but I remember he went to a concert at the farm show, James Brown concert at the farm show, right? During the concert, I don't know what beef he had with the uptown guys or whatever, man. I remember they stomped the mess out of him, man. He had a broken jaw, come home with a broken jaw and everything. I remember he even went to a William Penn football game, right? Uptown. They chased his tail home. Yeah, they chased his butt. I don't know how he got home from, where William Penn is, right?
That's a nice trip.
From Division Street. I don't know how he got home, but I know he came home, he was telling us, and it was after me. I don't know if he was on their girls or what, but
Right.
you know, they uptown, they wasn't playing that.
So this is long standing. This
Oh yeah,
Uptown Hill thing.
this was it was either like 68, 69. You know what I mean? It was going on back then. I mean, because of the rivalry of Harrisburg, you know, John Harris and William Penn. I mean, that was one of the greatest rivalries ever.
I heard it was nothing like it.
Nothing like it. I mean, John Harris could be 11-0, no 10-0 going into the William Penn game. William Penn could have been like 6-3. Or, you know, it doesn't matter what the record was. That game was going to be packed. It was on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, that's what okay.
It was going to be a sellout. And, you know, the rivalry was just humongous.
Man, something you just had to be there.
Yeah.
One of those things. Shut the city down. Everybody's going to be at the game.
Yes.
The same thing in basketball. Was it not as big?
Oh, no. William Penn used to crush. William Penn. Look, William Penn owned basketball. They did. The talent was uptown. And John Harris, I mean, William Penn had just as much as talent in football. But it's just, I think John Harris was just too disciplined. It was night and day between the coaches, I guess, at John Harris and William Penn.
Now, you start John Harris. What is that like just from a student's perspective? What was it like up there as far as, you know, staff? What was, you know, administration? What was happening there? What was the vibe like? Because you're one of the few, I shouldn't say the few, but you're one of the people that have gone through John Harris and then come back and work in the school. What was it like when you were coming up through there as a student?
When I was coming up, I mean, it was good because, like I said, we still had, it was still whites. It was still, you know, it was still integrated, you know what I mean? But not as much when I went to John Harris because all the whites had left. Mm-hmm. But it still was whites there, you know what I mean? And there was Hispanics in there also.
Not as much as now.
No, not as much as now. Right. Not as much as now. But we still had Hispanics. We had whites. And everything was more, it was more disciplined back then with the teachers, you know, because everybody respected the teachers, you know what I mean? We held the teachers to a high standard. I mean, we looked up to the teachers. It ain't like now. Right? It's not like, it's nowhere near close to
how it is now.
Yeah.
I wanna show you a picture, and I want to get your thoughts on it when you look at it. When you see that picture there, when you see that picture there, and what comes to mind?
Like I said, that was my senior year, the only year that I started in a football game was my senior year. That means I had to fight through a whole bunch of dudes.
See, nowadays
to get on this field,
they don't start right away. They're ready to quit.
Yeah,
I think that's a, you know, part of your story right there is just perseverance. You keep going and you keep getting better. You keep putting in the work,
right?
What you preach and what you train kids to do,
right?
You know, it may not happen for you right away, but ultimately you were able to start in your senior year.
Yeah, and another thing, like I never came off the field. The only time I came off the field during this season was I wasn't on the kickoff team, but I was on every other team. I was on the punt team, the extra point team. I never came off the field. I played offense, I played defense, and I enjoyed every moment because it just felt like, damn, I ain't play all them other years, right? And this is it. You know what I mean? I don't care how tired I was. I just enjoyed every moment of it.
Afro, right? Rocking the afro,
yeah.
20. Any inspiration behind the number 20? Where'd that come from?
I don't know, because the year before I wore number, you know, it was like, okay, we give you any number. Yeah. Always wanted to wear number 40. That was Frank Mathis's number, but because I used to look up to Frank Mathis. You know, he's passed away now. I used to look up to him. He was a heck of a running back, tailback, Z-back. Right. And that's the position I used to play, Z-back. You can run it and you can catch it.
Now, a lot of people don't know, you still, to this day, hold the record for interceptions in the season.
Yes.
And even, to me, a record I believe it will never be broken. You hold the record for interceptions in a game, which happened against East. And I think the most incredible thing about that record, and this is the part I think won't be broken. If memory serves me correctly through my research, it happened all in one half.
Yes, it
4
happened in the
interceptions in one half.
yeah in the first half of that game.
I bet they only probably what reason you get anymore. They probably throw it that way.
They ain't throwing hard. They ain't throwing no more during that. Then the second half, they ain't throwing anymore.
And see, I know this from talking to you, but you lost the game.
Yeah, we lost the game 7-0, and we lost it on a play, which I had a chance to make a play on the ball, but the thing about that play, the coach had called. The defensive coach wanted me to play in the flat that day. I mean, on that play where they scored a touchdown. It was like a 10-yard pass or something. I was supposed to watch the back coming out of the backfield or a back coming out. I'm supposed to stay in the flat. The safety was supposed to go behind me and cover the deep ball, right? What happened was the safety didn't go back deep. So they threw it to the wide out, and I left the flat to go back to get it. And I just missed the ball by like that much. By that much.
That's the only play they scored.
That's the only play they scored. That would have been number 5.
That would have been number 5. I don't think you had to worry about anybody coming close, though, Coach. I mean, 4 interceptions in a single game, all in one half. Yeah. As a record, I think it's going to be pretty safe for a long time.
Yeah, that was something. That game was something that East. It felt like East knew every play we was running. You know how people watch film? They broke that film down real well.
Wow. Now you were telling us all the story off camera, but if you can just talk about the time that you were living in, as far as this is early 70s. We're still dealing with a lot of racism as we are to this day. Yeah. What was it like back then traveling to some of these schools? Because it's actually, black folks are are more spread out probably now than they were. We're pretty much everywhere. Central Dauphin, you see us, Cedar Cliff, you see us all these different schools. Not in great numbers, but we're still, back then that wasn't the case. What was it like traveling to some of these places? Can you give us any examples, any stories that you remember of situations that was just like blew your mind back then of dealing with, that type of racism and issues coming from Harrisburg?
Wow. What blew my mind is when I was in 10th grade and went to watch the varsity play Cedar Cliff. And we went over to Cedar Cliff because we got on the fan bus. See, they had about 3 or 4 fan buses going over to Cedar Cliff. And we go in the building. We go in the stadium. And when you go in the stadium, you got to go behind the bleachers and stuff of the home to get over there to the visitors. And you had Cedar Cliff people calling you names, niggas and monkeys and spitting on you from the top bleachers, from the door. As
soon as you get in there.
So, the cops are there with the dogs and stuff, man. We up there, we saying something black folks ain't gonna keep their mouths shut now, but for so long. Mm-hmm. And then the game was it was a great game. At halftime, you're trying to go to the concession stands, which was behind their bleachers. Stuff was happening, man. They were spitting, throwing stuff. And when we was getting ready to lose the game and we getting ready to foul out, white folks is, talking smack to the, I'm a young buck, I'm 15, 16 years old and watching it. And fights were breaking out, blacks and the whites. And then the cops just sick the dogs on, on our fans. And here we had to run to the buses. We sprinted. You had to sprint for your life, or you gonna get billy clubbed with their sticks. So all I can remember is us sprinting to the buses, man.
That's amazing because you're going over to watch a high school football game.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to deal with that from the fans.
This is a 71. 71.
71. But then you got to deal with that from the police.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be able to keep the peace and
Right.
quote unquote neutral. It's supposed to be. And then
Right.
here you are having sick dogs on you and had no problem using the billy clubs and everything. What was policing? Of course, that's the West Shore, but just in general, what was it like as far as policing during that time in our city? You know, because there's a lot going on with police and everything in our society.
I'm glad you said that, man, because we used to have a rapport with the police in our city because they used to walk the beat. We had policemen and police ladies walking in our neighborhoods. So, you know, we would know some of the policemen by name.
Right. It's a genuine relationship there.
Yeah. Oh, you know, but until after the riots came, then, you know, a lot of that stopped. You know what I mean?
Were there a lot of black officers back then?
Oh, yeah. There was black, and there was white officers. I mean, there wasn't a whole bunch of black, but, you know, if you was black, you were sent to the black neighborhoods. Right. You know what I mean? So, and there was white officers, you know. We should say, hi, hey, officer. And they would talk to you and everything.
The days of officer friendly, being able to come through the neighborhood and know what's going on. But they don't do that now.
No, they don't walk the beat or nothing. What you scared of? You know what I mean? Wow.
Gotta be able to build that rapport.
You won't even ride the bike. There used to be officers that used to ride the bikes.
I got another pic for you. I want you to take a look at and tell me what comes to mind when you see that pic.
Okay. I was a freshman in college at Imperial Valley Community College.
So you went to community, that's in California?
In California.
In California.
This is my story behind that. That when I graduated from high school, basically I was tired of high school. I was tired of school. So I didn't even go to college right away.
Really?
No, I didn't even go to college. I just went right to work from September. I mean, you know, after I graduated, and I went to work for this trucking company, right? Man, I could not. It's called Fuhoff. You make trailers, right? So man, I couldn't stand that job, man. I said, man, I gotta do this the rest of my life.
I said, this ain't it, huh?
So after like 3 or 4 weeks, I quit. And I started working at the Boys and Girls Club.
On Berry Hill Street?
Yeah, Berry Hill Street. Ham, Mr. Ham, he told me, come on, and you know, you can work with us. You know what I mean? I made about $7, couple dollars an hour. And then when that December came around of 74, that December came around, Earl Mosley, who was at Imperial Valley Community College, he came home right for Christmas, and he was telling me about the school. He said, man, well, you need to come back with us because you need to be in school. So I said, man, I ain't got no money. I had $50 to my name. He said, well, bring that $50. And I would put it in the gas tank. Because we drove.
They drove. There wasn't no flying.
Me, him, Cliff Bethia. Cliff Bethia, man, I don't know if you heard of Cliff Bethia, but this guy, he was the Rose Bowl MVP when he played. And he was at Imperial Valley College also. And he comes from Harrisburg High, you know what I mean? He should have been a guy that made the Big 33, but they wouldn't pick. It was hard to make the Big 33. Yeah. But anyways, we all drove to California. I had $50 to my name. I said, here, you can have it.
What did it take, huh?
Yeah. So the thing is, once we got to El Centro, California, that was the name of the town. I went and filled out, forms and stuff right then and there.
Oh, so you didn't.
I have nothing.
Yeah. So you fill out no application?
Nothing. As soon as I got there to campus, I filled out, the financial aid form. They said it's going to take a little while.
Man.
But as soon as the money comes in, this one lady, she was nice. She was a black lady. She She was a financial aid officer. She said, look, we just going to fill this paperwork out. It's going to take about a month or so or 2 months for it to come back. So, and then they enrolled me in school and everything. Enrolled me. Wow. And I was using the same books Earl Mosley was using, law enforcement. Because he was taking up law enforcement classes.
Okay, so you had to share his books.
I shared it.
Books, right?
I shared his books. And I said, if any money comes in and there's any extra money, I'm going to give it to you. Because he's the one who had a little apartment, right? So we stayed in his apartment. And then the financial aid came in, the money I gave him, the money to help pay for the rent and stuff, and
that's amazing. So you talk about a leap of faith.
Yeah,
you didn't apply to go to the school.
No,
you hadn't done anything as far as admissions. You hadn't done any financial aid. Mosley says, "Hey, come on out here."
Yep.
Give him $50 to get out there, and you drive.
Junior college.
We're not talking about driving Maryland.
No, I know.
He drove to California. To junior college, and
he saved my life.
Wow, that's amazing. So then you attend junior college, you studying there, and what happens after you start?
Like Earl and them had a year up on me, because usually in junior college, after a year and a half, you transfer to your next school. Right. So Earl and them already had played the season. I had played no season because I came in during their spring season. So I had to wait till the following fall play football. So, and that was Earl's second year of football. My first year of football was his second. Okay. So after that season was over, whoever recruiting them, they went off to that school. Right. Yeah. So him and Cliff Thea, they went off. Cliff went to University of Washington, in the Pac-10 at the time. In the Pac-10 at the time. Yeah, he was a junior college All-American or whatever. Earl went to New Mexico Highlands University in New Mexico. So I stayed there for another football season. And then school called Chadron State in Nebraska. They were recruiting me. This other school was recruiting me, University of Pacific in California. They was recruiting me, and but they wasn't recruiting me hard. Like Chadron, they like, we want you right now. And the day I was getting the day before I was getting ready to leave to go to Chadron, the University of Pacific called. They said, "Oh, we want you." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I thought y'all didn't want me anymore." She said, "Well, we didn't get these other dudes, so now you see what I'm saying? We didn't get these other guys, so we want you right now. You can get out of that Chadron State contract or whatever." And I said, "Nah, man, I'm being loyal." So I went out to Nebraska, and that was an all-white school. There was only like 13 minorities in that school.
In the whole school?
In the whole school. It was a cowboy town. You're talking about an education. Wow. But I would never trade that away, that experience away, though. Never.
It's part of your growth and your development.
That's part of my growth.
You're talking about going to California, which is also a huge change from Pennsylvania. And from California
east to the west. Right? East to the west.
You the Midwest.
Then I went to the Midwest, right?
And it's like culture shock all over again. It's like, this is totally different. 13, you come from a black town, or at least a mixed town when you first get here, to
you're right.
13 black, minorities in the whole school.
Yeah, I learned a lot. That it was only a year that I was there at Chadron State College, but I learned so much. Dealing with other cultures, right? And there was Hawaiians there. It was majority white now. Right. You're talking about cowboys and cowgirls. You're talking about some racism going on. Right. Some people they didn't, the way you look, they didn't like the way you look. Right. Because there was some people there that never seen blacks before.
Yeah. Man, now, what do you get into? Like, what are you studying at this point? Like, as far as your education?
I was in sociology and law enforcement. So, because I said I ain't want to be no policeman. Why am I still in law enforcement? Right. So I picked up sociology. Okay, your major. Yeah. So.
Was there anything that sparked that said, "Hey, I want to go and
like a social worker"? Right. I want to work. Still want to work something with kids. Mm-hmm. The law enforcement and sociology, they went a little bit hand in hand a little bit. So
it was a smooth transition into that, and you kind of make that your focus.
Yeah.
Going forward. Now, is this during that time, or is the flood going on while you're in college?
What'd you say?
The flood here that we had back here.
That was the flood. Was when I was in 10th grade.
10th grade. Okay, yeah. So same year that this Cedar Cliff situation, all that around that same time.
You did, yeah. The Cedar Cliff was a year before.
Okay.
Then the flood.
Then the flood happened.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how much did you see the city shift?
Oh
man,
man,
what was that like?
That was wild because here you could. Like, I live by the State Street Bridge, so when the flood was going on, right, we walk across State Street Bridge and go up and go uptown, right, just to see how close the water was to 6th Street. The water hit 5th Street.
Wow.
And there was a curfew, too, going on at the time. So we had to, after we went uptown to look at it.
Get back.
Yeah, we had to get back because I was on 6th and Woodbine, and I seen the water just slowly creeping up. Can you imagine if the water would have went over 6th Street? It would have been up the hill.
Yeah. That's completely
because Cameron Street was strictly flooded.
Yeah.
You had the Army and the Navy here in Harrisburg, and they was the ones running the curfew. So we had to hurry up and get back on the State Street Bridge and get back on the hill. Ain't that crazy?
It is crazy. It's hard to even imagine that now.
Can you believe that?
Hearing stories of people taking boats going down Cameron Street and different things like that. I mean, it's hard to imagine.
Can you believe 4th and E was in water? Those folks that was living there?
Yeah, completely flooded.
It almost creeped up on 6th Street. It was at 5th Street. That was crazy, and I seen it firsthand. Me and my friend, we looked and said, "Damn, if that water comes up
a little more."
We started running back to the State Street Bridge.
So back to Nebraska for a second. You're out there, which I'm sure is brutally cold in the wintertime. It's flat, so you just that wind coming through there.
You talk when the snowstorm, man. You talking about feet? You couldn't even leave your dorm.
That experience helped you grow.
Yes,
it helped shape you even more. So all these different building blocks throughout your life.
Right.
You leave Nebraska. What's the next step? What are you thinking after you get out of school there? What's the next step for you as far as professionally?
Well, when I left, the reason why I didn't go and finish up at Sheridan was because I came home. I mean, look, you weren't as a black man. You wasn't going to be you in Nebraska. You ain't have a love life.
Right.
They wasn't those white girls and there was only a couple minorities and they weren't black. They were Samoans. Right. And
the racial thing wasn't really that big at that time.
No, there was nobody. There was nobody there. So
it was like doing hard time.
So like when I came home, that's when I met my son's mom. And, she got pregnant, and I didn't want to go back. Right. Because when she told me she was pregnant, I was like, damn, I didn't want to be like a deadbeat like my dad, so I didn't leave. So I didn't leave. Although my college teammates were calling me, said, come on back. I said, I can't leave. I don't know if I had to. I hate to say if I had to do it again, I would have left. I know they probably would have understood, to finish up. Because I've been a better man if I'd have finished up, got my degree and all that stuff, but I hate looking back.
No. I mean, I think, things, it's easy for us to look back, at times to say, wish we could have done something a little different here or there. But
right.
Again, thinking about how things turned out and the impact that you were able to have.
Right.
It's funny, you mentioned California. I moved out there when I was really young. I left home and went out there. And I think sometimes, man, what if my plan was to stay and I didn't. And sometimes I think, well, if I had stayed, look at all the people that I've been able to be involved with, the relationships that I've been able to build, and the impact I've been able to have. Who knows what direction you go? Maybe you finish there and somebody offers you a job in Tennessee or Nebraska. They say, hey, why don't you stay out here? I mean, so I get what you're saying, but I think so many people have benefited from that decision, if you will, in hindsight.
Yeah, what happened was, like, by leaving those places, and I came back to Harrisburg, I appreciated Harrisburg more, and I know how to deal with Harrisburg. How some people say, man, I got to get out. I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? And rightfully so. Everybody should get out of Harrisburg for a time so you can see the other parts, and how the other parts of the country is, right? And what happened to me is when I came home and, I started working and, dealing with other people and stuff, I just felt like I knew how to handle Harrisburg and stay out of trouble and all that, you know what I mean? Just from being in those other places and looking at other cultures and,
I often hear people say that, once you leave, what you hear the most is that once you leave, you'll realize, you'll hear a lot of people say that they don't want to come back, right?
Right.
I think also what you're saying is very true, and I can attest to this.
Right.
You can leave and appreciate it more and understand how to navigate Harrisburg a little differently.
Right.
If you've grown and picked up some things from the places that you went to.
Right.
You can bring those lessons back home and you can use them. So I think that's, and speaking of which, I want to know, how did you get into coaching? Like, how did that happen? Because that's what I think the majority of people at this point kind of know you as.
Right.
Is Coach Des. How did that happen?
Well, what happened, I thought, although I think when we were younger, like, 14 and 13, there was some guys under me, like Lee Brown and Bill Patterson and those guys. We used to always play football with those guys, and we used to always be the captain over those guys. So it started back then. Didn't know it, though. Didn't know it. But these guys would always talk about it. Say, yeah, he used to be our coach. He used to coach us up. But what happened was when me, Earl Mosley, Cliff Bethea came back home from junior college, Harrisburg High was having turmoil with their football coaching staff. There was a situation between the black coaches and the white coaches. You see what I'm saying? Because the black coaches wanted to be the head coaches, and the white coaches were still there, and the white coaches, some of them we knew because they used to coach us, right? And some of the black coaches were still there too, like Coach Hamilton, Coach Smith, and so they was just bickering. So what happened was the football team during the summer didn't have a coach. So us guys used to go up there and help the football team. Work out with them. And the first week of practice, we were still there. I mean, we were still home, right? We didn't have to report to junior college till a little later. And we was, like, the first day of practice, we were coaching them. You see what I'm saying?
So that kind of just happened naturally. It wasn't like something that was talked about or planned out. You just kind of happened from saying, look, they don't have a coach in the summer.
Yeah.
We need to help these kids out. And you kind of became the default
Yeah, by default. Yeah, we had to coach those dudes. I mean, they didn't have no coach. They didn't have no coaches. I mean, the blacks and whites. It was, it was. I don't know the ins and out of why it happened, but it happened, and we started coaching for about a week with them until somebody came and told us don't do it no more. You know what I mean? They told us don't. And we said, well, what are you talking about? They need somebody to help coach because it got real political at the time.
I was about to say this when the politics always kicks in.
It got real political. Harrisburg High got extra political at the time. But that was the first stint of trying to help somebody out.
Right. Now, that's football.
It's football.
You end up coaching, I think, so many. How many sports did you play in high school? Did you just play football or did you play baseball?
I played baseball, played football. Went out basketball 11th grade year. I made it, though. But matter of fact, football was so rough. And like after football season, you had to go right out for basketball, and didn't make it. But I mean, I was in the starting lineup because you got all these basketball players. They in great shape. Yeah. Football players are not in great shape. So I said, man, I'm just taking up a spot. So I told the coach, yeah, man, I'm hanging it up, man.
Focus on football.
Yeah, I just said I told him I was going to get ready go out for track. So I went out for track. I wanted to go out for track to work on my speed for football. Mm-hmm. So I didn't play baseball that year. The next 2 years, matter of fact.
Focused on the track.
For football, yeah.
So you coach in football. Now how do you get into all these other sports?
Basketball. I used to play basketball just to stay in shape. It's just an athletic thing. You know what I mean? And coaching wise, matter of fact, we used to at the colleges we were at. We always played intramural basketball, and matter of fact, we used to play against some guys that could have played on the school team, on the college team. But I mean, if you didn't get a scholarship, you ain't playing college ball. But anyways, them guys was good, man. We used to play against all these good college dudes, and even the football players could play basketball. So it just when I got home from college, we just started like little leagues or little tournaments. We would have tournaments first. So we could play. We would have tournaments, and I used to always have to be a coach of one of the teams. You know what I mean? One of the teams that I picked.
You coach the team.
And then when I was working at the Capitol, we had a team called the House of Representatives, right? House of Representatives Hawks, the House Hawks. That's me, Moochie Jones, Earl Mosley and them, and there was a couple other guys. And
yeah, squad.
We had a good squad. We used to win it all the time. We used to win the state league. Yeah. We used to play against Cobbler. Then we knocked Cobbler off the throne.
Yeah.
But anyways, but then how I really got coaching basketball is when we started that Ujima League, because we seen all these kids with nothing to do. There was no leagues for them or anything.
Right.
So we just formed this group, and we gave it a name. Kaba gave it the name Ujima. So I mean, collective work and responsibility. And all our sons, who was like 5 and 6 and 7, all of them got to play in it. Jimmy Jones was part of it. Willie Taylor, Rory Purdy. I mean, it was like me and Kaba, and there was a couple other dudes. You know what I mean? We formed a group, and some of them stayed, for a few years until they broke off, and that's how Coach Cam used to have a team. He used to bring a team from uptown. Yeah, man. We used to have a team from Stilton come. I mean, that was in the 80s. That was a great thing in the 80s.
Was playing at the park at the time?
Playing up Reservoir Park.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the Ujima and Cobb. That impacted so many. once that league got going. So
Yeah,
many people
man.
came up through Eugene with you and Mr. Carver Brunson.
It did, man. Pint Tate, man. He took off, bro. Yeah,
right?
yeah, man. He was a little old thing, man. And
could you see it in him like early?
Yeah, you can see it in him early, man. From the basketball perspective, because I didn't see him play football when he was in midgets, but I heard he was a monster in midgets also when he played midget football.
Right.
But basketball, you can see it, man. He was a huffer and a puffer. He was,
yeah, that's right. I mean? Yeah.
And he wouldn't stop.
Had a motor, huh?
He had a motor, man.
I guess some of them you can see it in early.
Yeah, man.
See it early. Yeah. You know, I think when I think about, the coaching, I'm in the coaching now.
Yeah.
We learn so much from other coaches. What would you say is some of the keys to coaching? Like, what advice would you give to young up and coming coaches?
That's a good question. Like
coaching.
Like when you start coaching, rec league stuff, right? I didn't take off as a coach until I started coaching school ball, because rec ball is different. Because a lot of times you just think you can just fast break people to death and win the basketball game. No, that's not it, man. And that's why a lot of these rec coaches couldn't coach school ball, because you didn't know how to slow down. And I got caught up into that also, you know what I mean? Cam did too, you know what I mean? Until I coached 7th and 8th grade basketball. X's and O's. I mean, 7th and 8th grade, you can still get away with fast breaking a lot, right, if you got the athletes. Mm-hmm. But when you move up to 9th grade, that's one step away from JV varsity, you got to have X's and O's. The first year I coached 9th grade basketball, I was getting my butt whipped.
Really?
Yeah. Them coaches wasn't messing around. In the mid-pen,
sorry to even
imagine. It wasn't none of that fast break basketball stuff, man. You have to have plays out of bounds, a lot of out of bounds plays, just like a JV team or a varsity team. I mean, they know how to bust up all your fast breaking stuff.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They know how to make you look bad. I remember I was 2-7 going into the second half of the first freshman season. 2-7, won 2 games, lost 7. Or the year before, when I was in 7th, 8th grade, we was like, 18-0 or something. I said, damn. But it taught me, and then we went like 9-0 the second half. That's because I had to tighten up on the X's and O's.
Make some adjustments.
Yeah, you had to make adjustments. You had to have better plays. You know what I mean? So that was a lesson. That was a lesson for me right there, man. Yeah, I was still going off of them playground stuff and fast breaking and man, your X's and O's have to be correct, man. The more you move up, the better coach you better be.
What do you find to be some of the differences? Because you coach various sports and you coach boys and girls. I can speak from that experience myself, but hearing it from, one of the best to ever do it, what would you say some of the biggest differences is between coaching boys, young men, and coaching young women?
Okay. The one thing I like, boys had, they played more on athleticism. Girls played more with this first. The boys play with more athleticism first, then this second.
Right.
And one thing I liked about the girls were they would listen to everything you say. And they would use it. They would try it. You know what I mean? They listen to everything come out your mouth. Mm-hmm. With the boys, sometimes they get a little arrogant unless they were hungry. Like there's some guys that are just hungry, right? And they'll take everything you say, to heart. And that, when you coaching some of them young dudes, absolutely, man, the only way you're going to get better quicker is if they listen and keep working on what you have taught them.
That's absolutely true.
So the only thing difference between the girls is like the athleticism part. I'm not saying girls aren't athletic because some are.
Well, obviously,
Some
there's
are.
a difference between the athleticism of the boys and girls.
You're right.
Yeah.
But the girls, man, and the boys are play, and back then the boys are play, 24/7. Where the girls have, they have to be girls.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So they ain't gonna do it 24/7 all the time.
Wasn't the same dedication to sports. Sports wasn't as just the paramount as it was for guys, right? Back then.
Right.
You could do it all the time. You could probably much easier to find pickup games or play street football, whatever sport you're in. I guess it's more readily
right. But I understand. But this is what I get too. I understand why girls are that way because girls ain't that. Most of them ain't never ineligible either. They into the books.
True.
Their social life is a little better, and they into a lot of things.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about it. And actually, what you're saying about that playing with their mind first as opposed to the athleticism.
Yeah,
I wish it was some way to break through to the guys, and obviously I was an athlete and I'm a guy, so I can relate to that looking back,
too.
saying, man, I just try to go out there and run and jump and not think as much first. I wish I could break through to the guys and say, man, if you could harness that athleticism, but use your mind first and foremost.
Right.
And think the games.
Think the game first. Matter of fact, that's what made me a better basketball player quicker was when I started using this, man, because I mean, people can take away some of this athleticism. A smart basketball player can take it away from you.
Absolutely.
So, but when you start using this, coming out the blocks, coming out the door, and only use your athleticism when you need to.
Now, you've been in the game a long time. What are some of your most memorable coaching experiences? What are a couple that stick out in your mind? Like, man, I remember this situation or that situation from your coaching days.
Yeah, I think the best coaching that I've done is on a team that wasn't a winning team. It's like bringing matter of fact, I think the best coaching job that I've done where our players appreciate it was when one time Smallwood put 16 guys on JVs, right? 16 players. 16 players, right?
A lot of news to manage right there, man.
16 players, right? So I said, well, damn, how am I going to do this? How am I going to play these guys? As a coach and a teacher, I mean, you got to try to develop everybody. So that year, this is, I said, well, the first game, it was like, there's no way I could play 16 guys. And I didn't. It was like maybe 11 or 12, right, in the game. We're talking about a JV game. Then I said, man, these guys is working hard at practice. Man, then I started playing all of them. Like, I would go 5. I would go 5 at a time, 5 at a time. The only guy that probably wouldn't get in was that 16th dude. And lucky this guy was a real good kid, nice kid, and wasn't expecting to play.
He was just happy to be a part of the team and around the guys, so he took it a little better than.
But anytime he got in the game, the other players was like, they was flip out. Oh yeah. They would want me to get this guy. His name was Albert Motley. They want you remember? Yeah, they wanted me to get him in the game, man. But I mean, I know the coaching staff wasn't too happy, me playing 16 dudes, but I was like, that's the only way I could do it, you know what I mean? And we were still winning. We were still winning games. I mean, our record was like 17-1.
Wow.
Playing 16 dudes.
16 dudes.
Yeah, I just thought, like, me figuring out a way how to play everybody's kid. How I was going to do it. I just thought, that was one of the best coaching jobs. And I took that all the way to the Hard to Guard Youth Development Program. Like anytime we played the game, I tell my coaches, make sure everybody gets in. I don't care. I ain't worried about that wins and losses. So try to win the game, but
Yeah, you're here to develop that.
yeah, I don't care if there's a girl, boy. I don't care if he was the sorriest kid. Yeah, make sure everybody get in the game. Develop everybody.
That's crucial, man. People don't realize how difficult that is as a coach, particularly on the JV level.
Yeah.
To be able to play 16 guys, to manage 16 teenage personalities,
Right.
and to keep everybody happy. And on top of that, you got parents and family. Why my kids? To be able to manage that is not easy. And go 17-1.
17 1.
Impressive, man.
Almost with a defeat was trying, but hey, you got to play everybody, man. That's the only way your team is going to be close and bond, and they were so close, together, man.
You remember the couple guys that were on that team?
Yeah, I mean, Booba. Wait a minute, hold on.
Raheem? Is that Raheem on that?
No, that was Will. That was all them. Kenny Watson and all those guys.
Now, did you ever, at any point, consider being a head varsity coach, whether it was at Harrisburg High or another school? Did you ever consider just having your own program?
Like varsity, when they wanted me to be a head coach, like when players and people wanted me to be a head coach, I really wasn't ready. I wasn't really ready to be a head coach. I mean, that was a lot of responsibility. I wasn't ready, but I would have did it. You know what I mean? But really, I was happy I wasn't. You know what I mean? But I thought, as it went on, I thought I could become a head coach. But, I wasn't ready. I mean, it's a big responsibility. Like, I still say to this day, I was a better assistant than I would be a better head coach because I like teaching.
That's interesting. Yeah, why is that? Because a lot of people probably...
And people don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
And people don't, they don't want to admit it. Like in football, I could have never been a head football coach. In high school, I had to give Earl Mosley credit, man. This dude he always let his coaches coach. You know what I mean? He let his coaches, he said, if you think about that, you coach, you tell me, what you're doing and how you're going to do it. He let his coaches coach. You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of guys like coaching under him. He let his guys coach. But he could manage everything else, you know what I mean? Get the buses and make sure, the schedule's right, everything. It's hard. It's hard being a head coach, man.
That's just, I think that right there is such a huge revelation. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked to hear that, but I think it's such a needed thing to hear somebody who's as well respected as you, as a coach.
Right.
Say that, you know what, this probably wasn't my lane. This probably wasn't where I was best at. Because, coaching is something, particularly being a head coach, is something that everybody in their mama think they can do. I was the head coach of this, whether it be football, basketball, whatever the case may be, baseball, track, volleyball, everybody wants to be in charge. Right. And I think it's interesting that you said that, you feel like you were better, your best position was as an assistant,
right?
As far as the program goes. Yeah,
because you want to be hands-on, you know what I mean? It's hard to be hands-on teaching somebody something, being a head coach. Being a head coach, it's just hard. I was better at it as an assistant. Even in softball, I was handed that job by default. Because Fred Clark had asked me to sign up some girls because they was bringing in softball for the first time since they stopped the program, right? So I went into
Fred Clark used to be the athletic.
Yes.
Director. Was he the AD, correct?
He was the AD when he was the AD at Harrisburg High. He asked me, he said, Coach Nance, could you sign up girls for me for softball? I said, okay. I went in the lunchroom, signed up about 20-something girls, gave him the list. Next day, he said, hey, you're the softball coach. I didn't know anything about softball. Nothing. Nothing, man. It took me 10 years just to even learn all of the rules.
On the job training, yeah.
Yeah, man. By that time, we was getting our butt sweat like every game. But I was a coach by default, so and lucky I got a chance to teach because you only had two coaches. It was me and an assistant, and then we started a JV program. So we would get another coach, and then we would get a volunteer coach. So really, it'd be like four of us. But to be a softball coach, you had to do everything. You had to be able to do everything. Line the field up, you had to do a lot. So you had batting practice, pitch. That's how I learned how to pitch.
Yeah.
Batting practice. Because I had to do it all.
Because it's a different style than baseball.
Yeah,
so,
it's
pitching is totally different.
Totally different. So, but anyways, that's how I got to be a softball coach. It was by default.
Wow.
They didn't even go after a coach.
So they just started the program up.
Yeah.
There you go, coach.
Yeah.
Now, how do you know when it's your time to step away from coaching? Like on a high school level, obviously you're still involved in the Boys and Girls Club, you still have hard to guard and things. But how do you know when it's time? Because it seems like it's a very difficult thing for people to walk away from in any sport.
Right.
It just seems like you've been doing it so long, you love it, you're passionate about it.
Uh-huh.
You've stepped away some years ago from the high school level.
Right.
How do you know when it's your time to hand it off to someone else to step away and do other things?
When I knew that I could help some kids out without being a coach, then I was like, oh, this ain't bad. You know what I mean? I'm still in your life, or I still can help you out. I mean, it's hard to do that in football, but football, I was coaching like over 10 years or close to 10 years when they let us go. So I wasn't too mad at that. You know what I mean? And basketball, that's not my first sport.
Right.
So when I left basketball, it wasn't no. I mean, at the high school, it's not a big deal. That ain't my whole life. You see what I'm saying? So, but the thing is, in basketball, you can start programs up. You see what I'm saying? So you're still your foot's still in the door. So really, it's not like I walked away from it. I'm still doing it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With the teenagers, with the little kids, So
probably on an even greater level, you can spread out even further in a lot of ways. Because you work on, like you said, when you're locked into high school, you're so locked into that you don't have time to maybe work with the little ones.
Yes,
you can develop them from 8 to 18 or even younger. Even further. College kids still come back and work out with you. Even Tony Jameses of the world and different people. So,
but the key is you gotta try to do some of the things that the high school is doing, so you can send them to high school. Right. You see what I'm saying? So you can prepare them. Yeah. So
where does that passion come from to work with the youth? Is that always something that you had from a youngster?
No, that was instilled by my playground instructors. Like when I was coming up, we used to, the playground system was at a high level back then. That's the only place you could go to, right, was the playground. Parks and Rec.
Yep.
Used to have that playground system. So we used to go to Lincoln. We used to go there every day. You know what I mean? Not to just play basketball, just to play the games they even had out, on the table. And I used to have this one instructor, Mike Elby. Yeah, man. He used to, and before him, it was this guy, Wes Plummer, right? They used to be our playground instructor. He was first.
The Elbies, is this the Art Elbies?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Art Elby, man. I remember he took me, the first time me ever playing basketball, right? We used to have a playground team, right? I wasn't that good or anything, right? But what happened was the more I played, the better I got. So they had a playground tournament, and it was up at the Y. and man, it was guys from everywhere, man. And the best team was the Salvation Army team, right?
Loaded.
It was loaded. Uptown dudes, it was loaded. Keith Bair, it was Big Red. Matter of fact, Mr. Washington played on that team.
Okay. Yeah, that's my guy right there.
Dudes. And man, nobody could beat that team. But anyways, I played this one team. Matter of fact, it was against Jabbar Baylor's dad. His team. I don't know what team it was. I don't know if it was Fourth and E or the playground down the street from it. What's the name of the playground?
Was Fourth and Dolphin?
Fourth and Dolphin. Yeah. It's one of those playgrounds. And one day everything I threw up went in, man. And I scored 30 points against this team and knocked them out.
Wow, that was your coming out party.
And, you know, Mike was the coach. Mike Elby was the coach. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about hill and uptown stuff going on. Mike used to get on arguments up there with the other coach and stuff. I mean, Mike was a passionate dude, man. And plus Mike was a pretty good athlete himself, but he was our playground instructor and he was the coach. And I guess he turned me loose that day, man. And I remember I was like, man, I used to only score about 8 points in a game or less. That day I scored like 30. I was in the zone. They could not stop me that day. But I blame it on my playground instructor because they put time in with you, man. And that was my, you know, when I see guys like that. Oh, and Sherman Cunningham, he used to be my playground instructor too. Wow. Yeah, I know that. At Lincoln. All three of them guys were at Lincoln as the playground instructors during my time. Yeah,
another legend.
Yeah, man, and I watch how they did things, and it like stuck with me. So I started trying to do as I got older, try to do some of the same things, man.
What do you think some of the differences are between today's athletes and the athletes from previous generations? Because you've been doing this over 30 years in coaching. I'm sure you've seen, a lot of different styles, of play, a lot of different maybe attitude. Just in general, what would you say some of the differences are between today's athletes as opposed to, if any, between the athletes and yesterday?
Yeah, I say today's athletes, they're getting more training than the athletes back in my heyday, and you can see their skill set early. At an early age, where us back then we didn't. Because me, I was like slow as molasses. If I could have had some of that training, I think the athleticism would have came a little quicker. Right. Because people say, "Oh, Dad, you slow." Now, which I was. I didn't get like faster until I got into college, where some of these high school dudes is already fast already, you know what I mean, in high school. So, I mean, I was like a late bloomer myself, you know what I mean? So if you, and coaches, they love speed. So if you're a fast dude, you're going to play before that slower dude.
Absolutely.
So, but I say the athletes back in the day were a little more disciplined, more. You know what I mean? Because you had to play with everything. All the coaches that we had, you know what I mean? They always coach with their head and wanted you to play with your head. And if you played out of control, you wasn't playing.
Right. So the mental aspect of the game was emphasized
a lot more. But I'm saying these kids nowadays are just as good as the kids. Look at Michael Parsons. You can play on anybody's team. I don't care what anybody say.
Any era, right?
Huh?
Any era, any day.
And look at the Kent boys. You know what I mean? They were too as far as I'm concerned, they were two disciplined kids.
Yes, very. Mm-hmm.
Very disciplined kids once they got on that field learning their craft. Like as a defensive back, which I was myself. Mm-hmm. Very disciplined. You could play at any level.
Now it's rare that you see a father and their son both reach what most people would call legendary status in the city. You know, people now, I mean, you know, you're known by 3 letters, right? You know, people just Coach Dez, like Dez. You have a son that you can say Thrill, and people know exactly who you're talking about. You know, when did you realize that he was talented? When did you recognize that in your son as far as his ability?
Well, Will,
because some people say he's a late bloomer.
He is.
You know, but you got to see the process. So
he went through the same process that I went through, as far as, you know, your athleticism comes late. I mean, late bloomers, their athleticism comes late. Right. Okay, look who he had to play with. He had to play with Kenny Watson. Yeah. I mean, there was guys like Jamal Jones, Hank Poteet, NFL athlete. You know, you're playing. And let's go uptown. You know what I mean? You got guys you playing with every day, like Booba, Quincy Edrington, and all those dudes. I mean, you getting burnt by them dudes. I mean, you got little Taiwan Venable, who's
Wiley's not around the same age, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Them guys is all at the Quincy, Wadley. I mean, I mean, these dudes were developed
earlier,
quicker. You see what I'm saying? Well, Will was, you know, Will's like 5'10" now, but I'm just saying he was just a little dude. We never thought he would get up to 5. I'm 5'9". I didn't think he was gonna get up to 5'9". But he was a late bloomer too, as far as athletically. But he always had the game.
Coach's son.
Huh? See, a lot of people. I keep trying to tell people I'm not going to take credit for his game, to the fact that he did a lot of stuff. He did a lot of stuff on his own by being uptown, since we didn't live together.
Right.
I mean, he'd be out there playing with all them other dudes all the time, you know, even in the backyard, you know what I mean? Because him and Booba, if you ever talk to Booba, man, he'll tell you some stories about him and Will, getting it in, going at each other, knocking each other down and stuff like that.
He took him to, was it a camp when he was in Syracuse, or one of those camps when he was young?
Yeah, I took him when he was the University of Syracuse. I took him to their basketball camp. I thought, you know, this is a good test where he's going to get, you know, knocked around, dropped off, you know what I mean? I took him and my stepson, Kevin Evans. I took them both. We took the train, right? And we got there, man, Will crushed, in his age group, he crushed that.
You thought he was going to get...
I thought,
I said, keep you making work harder.
Yeah, man, I'm like, here he made like 4 or 5 trophies home that day.
Was that when it went on, like, oh, man, he's got a chance to be pretty good? Or
man, he was just killing them on his moves. So I was saying to myself, well, damn, we're doing something right here in Harrisburg. You know, I mean, he's only 10 years old at the time. You see what I'm saying? He's only 10 years old, and he put a hurting on them little kids. Those kids. I mean, he put a... And I was like, man, here I spent like it was like $300 and something a piece.
So this is going to be a lesson for them right here.
I thought we was going to go against like the best of the best. Man, I thought, man, this can't be the best, man. If you coming out here with 3 and 4 trophies, because, I mean, he was they had all these events, like, you know what I mean? There was the 5-on-5. They had these shootouts. If you won that, you got a trophy. Here he was winning. Yeah, foul shooting contest. Then they had the All-Star game. He was the MVP of that. And I was like, and it was, and we played in there. What's their dome called?
Carrier Dome.
Yeah, that's where the camp was held at.
Yeah, Earl Pearl and all that played there.
Yeah, that's where the camp. That's where it was held at. For basketball, every day for like 5 days. And we slept in the dorms.
Now, his high school career it's not as stellar as people may think because of his legend. for those who don't know. But then he went on to win a junior college national title.
Right.
And be the MVP, net player, Final Four there. So I just think it's a great story, a testament of like, you get the ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys of becoming an athlete, and you can peak later on if you don't throw in the towel, you keep working.
And I forgot to say, like, I think any dude at that time from Harrisburg that would have went to that camp would have smacked that camp around. That's when I started noticing,
we got some talent here.
We have some talent here. You see what I'm saying?
A lot of times it goes underappreciated though. Small city,
I know.
People think Philly, New York, Baltimore, DC.
Right.
They overlook.
Yeah, I was saying, well, damn, if Kenny came here, Kenny would have, if he came to the camp too at the same time, he would have crushed that camp too. All them dudes, you know what I mean? So I was like, man, Harrisburg ain't far off the talent.
You talked about Ujima earlier.
Yeah.
Copper Brunson. One of my greatest memories was being able to honor you two at my last J Bair Unplugged show. It's an Hall of Fame trophy. That really meant something to me. But even more so was you wrote me a handwritten letter, just complimenting the show and appreciating it. You said you had a good time and everything. You were impressed, and that meant something to me. The fact that you just took time, I look up to you.
Right. That
you took time and you wrote that and that you had a good time and you enjoyed yourself.
I did.
Impressed. That's something that'll stick with me the rest of my days, because of how much,
right.
you mean to me. And,
right.
It's something that is a great memory for me to be able to acknowledge people such as yourself, while you're here, but to get that acknowledgement back.
Oh, definitely. Awesome. That was an awesome setup, man. I was like, man, how much time did he put into this, man? And didn't leave nobody out. So that's when something good happened. I mean, it wasn't like all about yourself.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I enjoyed that, man. That was the right way to go, and it was a great event. I was wondering when you was gonna have another one, man.
Yeah, we're gonna get it going again. But if we can shift back, because I wanted to transition from Ujima and you and Mr. Copper to Hard to Guard.
Mm-hmm.
What was the inspiration behind it? How did that get started? Because that's a name. First of all, the title is just amazing. Like it's one of those titles that it just rolls off the tongue. You hear it sticks with you. Hard to Guard. You're like.
Yeah, you got to talk to my son. He came up with that. He came up with the name. I formed the team because, like, right after high school, these guys wanted a team to play for in the summer, like in the summer league, right? So I said, okay, and we'll get the team put together. It was like Brian Lamel, David Archer, Bones. You remember Bones?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was on the team. I mean, we got some guys together, Terrell Spradley, and it was Andre Cooper. We got like Mark Lester. We had a group of maybe 15 dudes, right? But we went to this tournament in Lebanon. They had this tournament in Lebanon. I mean, we were playing at the park. And they had a league up at the park, right? It was the dog league.
That's a dog pound, and all those guys are still kind of running the city.
Yeah, so I had put them in that. You wasn't beating the dog pound at that time. But anyway, they had a team to play for. But then we took them. I knew this guy in Lebanon, right? He said he wanted us in this tournament. He said, do you have a team to come down to play in the tournament? So we took, it was like 7 of them. 7, and Bones was one of them, right? Because Bones had to play center. It was a short team, right? Booba was on that team. And it was all in one day. We had to play like 6 games in one day. And it was for money. I mean, we had to put up, I think it was like maybe $25 a guy, right? So it was like $200, costed like $200 to be in the tournament. Mm-hmm. So we beat this Baltimore team to win it. And it was almost dark. And we beat this.
It's outdoors.
It's outdoors. Outdoors in the summertime.
Summertime, okay.
So we won, and then the next year came around. We won it again. That's when Mark Lester and Micah was on the team and all that. And that's how the team started like growing.
Yeah.
And then we just kept putting them like in the like when the Y had that league, Coach Cam had the league, and I remember Chris Franklin and them had a team. I forgot the name of their team called. I remember we had beat the Dog Pound, but we lost to Chris Franklin's team. And we had both Lesters on the team at that time because, you know, they just getting done with college.
Right.
And then Damone played for the Dog Pound. And Damone, after we dropped them off, Damone came over. He said, I gotta come with my guys.
Yeah.
And we ain't lose after that for years.
Rolling. That became, like, to me, the greatest, you know, franchise in the city's history. I think they surpassed the Dog Pound in my personal opinion, that hard to guard.
And we was playing, one summer we played, I don't know, man, we must have played 50, 60 games, man, in the summer. And you know, because we was in the Uptown League, we was in the Stilton League, we was in the York League, and we was in the Lancaster League. But I had to split the guys up.
Everywhere. Then you start playing Allentown, right?
Then we played in the Allentown tournament.
Yeah. They split them up just to make the games.
And it'd be like 70. I kept stats one time, man. Everybody didn't make every game, but it was like 70 games in one summer. It was like it was like you had a pro schedule.
Man, that's how they got better.
They did.
Get all those games.
You're right, man.
You know, they say you know a tree by its fruit, right?
Yeah.
You know, usually when you think of coaching trees, we think of people that are on staff with coaches and then they go on to get other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But your coaching / training tree, I mean, I think about guys like Mark Lester, who's training now, doing a phenomenal job with the football.
Yeah, he's cool.
I think of Quincy Wiley, who's training down there in coaching.
Yeah.
I think of your son Will, who's got his group with son and them.
He do.
I think of David Archer. I think of Alfred Booba Cloud, who was training with Jamie Paul, and Brian Majors, who's got the major prep.
Yeah.
I think of Avery Cloud Sr. with the Harrisburg Baby Cougars.
Oh, Baby Cougars,
I think of Sean Lewis Sr., you know, who's continued the hard to guard name. You think of Damone Maxwell, who got into coaching. Danny Lansana, who's doing a phenomenal job with his football training, his athlete training, and coaching at East. You look at Jonathan Breeden and guys like that. So many people. I mean, you were training before it was even really called training. It was nothing like that.
No,
in Harrisburg. It was just just working guys out.
Just working dudes out, right?
But now that's an actual. It's actually a business now for a lot of people, which is great. You know, but to see that people, even myself, you know, training kids and working out, guys that you know you have worked with, they've been inspired by you because none of us were doing it before you. This whole idea of working guys out or training or personal training, like you said, it didn't exist back then.
No, it did.
What is that like? What's that feel like to see how that's, you know, seeds that you planted, you know, sprout up and impact other generations, you know?
I'm just happy guys are doing something and helping kids. And sometimes it's not all about the money either, you know what I mean? Because some of these dudes don't have it. You know what I mean? So are you just going to leave them hanging because I can't pay, and you know a lot of dudes help me out. So I mean, you just can't keep working them out every day for nothing. I understand that part, but it's just a passion that I have. You know what I mean? And I want those guys to succeed, man. You know what I mean? And do what other people did for you.
Right. Pay it forward.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all passion driven.
Right.
Another one of your passions, photography. Right? I refer to you as like the Gordon Parks, the James Vanderzee, the Jamel Shabazz of Harrisburg.
All that's by accident. That came from when I used to work at William Penn. You know what I mean? When I first came through the school district, I was up at William Penn, right?
Okay.
And the kids, made me do it a little bit because nobody was like taking their pictures or anything. So I went and got a camera one day. It was an old cheap camera too. So I started taking their pictures of the events that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like show them or put them in a book or make a poster. And I just seen how they liked it, right? So I just kept doing it. So I just kept getting a better camera so I can get a better picture. And that's how all that kicked off, man.
And it continued. I mean, you would see so many people got pictures. John Harris,
Yeah.
Different events that you would be at. They got a picture. I mean, your books are legendary. Photos that you have of different people, the proms, and different things.
And it all started in high school, man. You know what I mean? It's like, who would think I would like have those for all those years too, man?
People look back now and say they can see pictures of their mom and dad when they were in high school.
Yeah, man.
Because a lot of people don't keep up with that type of stuff. So whatever pictures they had, they may have lost.
Exactly.
It's a bit of a historian then in that sense because, a documentarian because you keep track of these things. And these memories are precious to people that we've lost.
I know,
right?
man.
That you got, exclusive one-of-a-kind photos of.
I can't believe, like most of the time I took the pictures, I always made doubles, right? So one would go to them,
right,
and I would try to keep the other one, right? And 90% of the time, they have lost that picture.
Yeah, never fails. People don't hold on to stuff like it. Man, I don't know why.
Or they gave it to their ex or something, and or something. They don't have them. Especially the guys that went to prison, they don't have nothing. They don't have nothing. Yeah. So when they come home, right, and I show them some of the pictures I had of them when they was in high school. Oh man, they be so happy that they have it. I just give it to them.
Reservoir Park.
Yes, sir.
As I guess the great Herbie Hall referred to as Malcolm X Park.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
I grew up when we moved back from uptown. We moved a lot. We moved back to the Hill. Actually, she moved on Chestnut Street, and basketball was like all I had at the time. So for me, my dad was there. It was me, my mom, and she was raising my nephew.
Right.
And I would go walk from Chestnut Street to the park every single day.
Right.
Not some days, every single day.
Okay.
I think I probably came home, maybe watched Rap City or Yo MTV Raps or whatever it was, and then I was up to the park.
Right.
And I would stay there until the lights went out. And, I would start, it's funny because Jamie Brown,
Jamie Brown.
Jamie Brown would walk, and this is the days she would walk from the south side.
South side,
all
that's
the way up
right.
to the park. And me and her, we'd play one-on-one. And I'm sure Jamie, when she see this, she's going to probably tell people she whooped me. I don't believe her. I don't believe her. Me and Jamie, we get it in.
She says that about everybody.
She says that about everybody. Right? But that's my girl, man.
Yeah.
We would play. But what was it like, man, to get that honor when they basically named the court after you, put the mural on the court, which, it's amazing, right? I don't think anyone else in the city has something like that.
Right.
What was that like, man? And shout out to Chris Franklin and all the other brothers that were involved making that happen. But
man, it was like I was accepting it for everybody, man. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was accepting it for the people before me, like Stan Butlers, and face it, I'm gonna keep it real. Somebody else should have been on that court before me, you know what I mean? There's guys that just lived up there, man, you know what I mean? I thought Stan Butler was one of them. But when I got the award, I just accepted it for everybody else's behalf, man, seriously. And the award to me was really saying about all the hours I put in up there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I can't even count the days and hours that I put up in there in that place. And still is putting up in there, and on Reservoir, on the courts, because I make the Hard to Guard program in the summertime come up Reservoir, because everybody's trying to.
That was like the home base.
Yeah, yeah. I said y'all gotta be able to play outside too. You just can't be always indoors. They ever said, "Oh, it's 80 degrees, it's 90 degrees."
Ain't no shade up there. For those that don't know.
What about all them days you was up there on the 96 degrees and 100 playing? And so I make them come up there. I said, if you want to play, if you don't, you're not going to come. So the program stays at Reservoir Park in the summertime. So, because I used to be up there, man, me and Kaba used to be up there. It would be Saturdays and Sundays, all day, man. We had to rough and coach at the same time. Sacrifice the whole weekend, man.
So I get it. Definitely, I'm sure there's people that can't.
And sometimes during the weekday too, because we used to have games during the weekday also.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Once in a while, we'd do some makeup games.
Right,
and stuff.
during the week.
Yeah.
The sacrifice, I think, the honor fits the sacrifice that you made. And I know you're gracious, as always, in acknowledging the brothers that came before you, because we all of us stand on the shoulders of giants, of course.
Right.
But just as we stand on yours, you stand on others that came before you. But definitely can't think of anyone better. In my personal opinion, I'm sure a lot of people agree. But that's an awesome honor, and that will be there, forever.
Yeah, man. If it wasn't for the guys before me, though, man, I'm telling you, there's a lot of dudes that helped me out on the way. You know what I mean? So I just said, man, I do the same thing, man. If somebody calls me, asks me, can you help me with this or help me with that? I got to be there because that's what they did for me coming up, man. I ain't have a thing, man. They took me under their wing. I mean, there's some other guys that, you guys don't know that's passed away that helped me on the way also, man. And right under me is my mom. She's still living. And, awesome. She was my mom and my dad, so she's be 88 in April. So if she wouldn't allow me to play sports, I mean, she could easily have me working, you know what I mean, to help her out, because, because she was on welfare, so she didn't have a job. But she allowed me to get my high school experience. So for all you parents coming up, make sure your kid get their high school experience. Don't just cheat them with that. Yeah. That was the best thing for me. She let me get my high school experience, man. I would go and get a job in the summer. Yeah. But during school time, she said, you can go ahead and, play sports.
Be a teenager.
Yeah, be a teenager, right? You got all your life to work, man. That's what made me go to school. I was like, man, I want to work. I'm not ready to work the rest of my life yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Went to school, man, and got my college experience, man. And it's helped me be the person that I am today.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't realize the decisions that our parents make, the decision not to do something or, how it can impact our life. She chose not to force you into say, hey, well, you got to go to work or you can't do this. Right. She allowed you to have that and change your life. I mean, your life could go in a totally different direction.
I thank her for this day, and my brothers and sisters should be thanking her to this day for that too. You know what I mean? Whatever decisions they made in their life, but my mom allowed them to be the person that they are.
As we wrap it up, I want to play a quick little game if we can. I'm going to say a name, and you just say, first word or a couple words that come to mind. Just a quick thought.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Muhammad Ali.
The greatest.
Jim Brown.
The best running back ever.
Dr. J.
Before Jordan.
John Thompson.
Great coach.
John Chaney.
Another great coach.
Alfred Booba Cloud.
One of my all-time favorite basketball players that I coached.
Michael Parsons.
I can't even describe him. Talent. Talent. That's my single word for him. Talent.
Kevin Mitchell.
the best. It was the best high school football player that I've seen personally with my eyes. Kevin Mitchell,
Mike Grice.
awesome, awesome talent that I don't think people seen the real Mike Grice.
Serena Fields.
Oh, shoot. Man, you gonna make me. I'm wearing her stuff now. One of the greatest female athletes that I ever associated with.
Gregory Campbell, aka Coach King.
Coach Cam. I wouldn't be coaching right now at 65 if it wasn't for Greg Campbell. If I didn't see Greg Campbell do it until he passed.
Coach, you were alive during the Civil Rights Movement. You've seen this country go through so many changes over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Assassination of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, JFK, RFK, Fred Hampton, crack epidemic in the 80s. You've also seen, fast forward, our first black president.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the Trump era. And then less than 2 months after the country elected the first black vice president, female vice president, we have an insurrection, we have a storming of the Capitol on January 6th. What were your thoughts going through your mind, thinking about all that you've seen this country go through and then seeing that happen at our nation's capital? And just also the climate of the country today. What are just your thoughts on that?
Man, I never thought we'd go through it again. I mean, you just said the civil rights movement. It's like we're repeating it. History's repeating itself. It made me, tears was coming out of my eyes a little bit. I mean, it's not just one day. It was like a couple days, man, just to see us going through that again. I mean, people going through it again. And we're talking about white people, too, going through that. I mean, there's a lot of whites that didn't want to see that. I mean, Hispanics, the Asians, that situation it's now affecting everybody. It's just not the blacks. It's affecting a whole bunch of people, man. We went backwards, man. Wow. I'm just lost for words on it.
Coach, you're still training, you're still coaching kids. What's next? What's the next chapter for the great Destry Mangus?
Well, it's like I haven't finished the chapters I'm in now. You know what I mean? I'm not finished, so I can't say what's the next. But I'm glad you brought up my friend Greg Campbell, because I tell everybody I'm going to do it until I die. Greg Campbell couldn't even walk, and he just kept doing it. He just kept.
Yeah, it's life's work, pursuing his passion
until he couldn't do it no more, and that's until he passed. So if he can do it, I can do it. But no excuses, making no excuses. I'm just, the chapter's still just going, man.
Well, Coach, we love you. We appreciate you. I thank you for your time. I thank you for all the jewels that you've dropped on me personally through the years, and how watching you from afar and up close has been inspiring. I think I speak for everyone in this community when I say that you are truly a treasure. And, this has been an awesome experience, just this interview. I mean, we talked so many times over the years in private, at the school, at the basketball games, man.
Right.
I just want to tell you again, and I'm going to tell you a million more times, thank you for all that you've done for our city, for our youth, for our community, for our people. I mean, you're an inspiration, and we truly appreciate you.
I appreciate it, J Bair, man. I mean, everybody says you should put this on paper. Every time I try to put this kind of stuff on paper, I just wind up stopping. So if people are looking for a book, there's the book right there. What you just did, that's the book. That's as far as I'm going to go. Awesome. Every time I tried to write, it just wouldn't work.
Well, we're going to figure out a way to make that happen, because it's needed. We need something tangible that we can hold on to for years to come, whether it's be a full-length documentary or get somebody to help with the book. But
Right.
thank you, Coach.
All right. Appreciate it.